Okay, we are in the kitchen of Baker Dash as she makes her famous bread.
Okay, so I'm going to have to hurry because we don't have a lot of time. But the first thing we're going to do is we've got 4 teaspoons of what is this? Yeast. 4 teaspoons of dry yeast, and it's just traditional ordinary yeast. I'm using a blender to make sure I don't get 4 in there. 3, 4. I'm using a blender, but you're supposed to use a mixer, but my mixer broke. So that's that. So there's 4 teaspoons of that. Then 2 tablespoons of sugar. This is the wet part. 2 tablespoons of sugar. 1, 2. That's the sugar. This makes 2 loaves of bread. And then 2 cups of water. Warm water. Okay, it's got to be warm water. And 2 teaspoons of salt. See, everything's in 2s. 2, 2, 2. So it's really an easy recipe to remember. See, I'm not even following a recipe. I've got it memorized. So there's that. And the only thing that's a little bit different is the olive oil. And I use old olive oil. Not virgin. You want it to be really out of here. Okay, 1/4 cup of olive oil. So that goes in there just like that. Da 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 da. 1/4 cup. Good strong olive oil. There you go. So that's all the wet ingredients. And then we add to that, we add the flour. Now normally you make either whole wheat or white, or you can mix it up. I'm going to do a mixture of white and whole wheat. And so into the wet stuff, and you would be using a mixer, into the wet stuff you add 2 cups of flour, whatever flour you decide. So there we go. 1. Well, it doesn't have to be accurate, but about 2 cups. So there we go. Then we mix it up, and we make sure that it's completely mixed. Okay, so if you're doing it with a mixer, you do 3 minutes, but this is different with the blender. Okay, so the next step is to add more flour to an empty bowl, like this. 2 more cups, actually 2.5 more cups. So now I'm using white flour. I'm mixing it up. So 2.5 cups of white flour. You kind of make a little well, and you pour in your stuff. See, it's all smooth and no lumps and all that sort of thing. So it's got to be just a nice smooth mixture. It's a little hard for me to get this out. Okay. So then we start the kneading process. So first of all, you got to gather it all together, and it forms a sort of a ball, and then you put the ball onto the counter with a little, first you have to put a little flour on the counter, and just a little bit, just to keep the counter dry, and you'll be putting flour on the counter all the way throughout the kneading, and if you're going to knead it by hand, it's got to be kneaded for about 6 to 8 minutes. Okay, here we are. See, it's going to slowly come together. It's messy doing this. My machine broke down. My what do you call it? Kneader. My kneading part of my baking machine flew apart, so I have to do it all by hand now. But it's okay because it makes it better, I think. It's an even tastier bread when you're doing it by hand. That's what I think. It's all coming together here slowly. Get as much flour in. Don't leave any flour behind, or not much flour behind. so it'll all come together. And then you put it out on the floured surface and you knead it. You can stop it now, I think. Okay, so I've been gathering all the dough together and I'm about to take it out. You can see that the bowl is mostly clear. So then you put it on the counter and take it off your hands. It helps to get it off your hands. Sometimes you can have a little spatula there, but it'll come off your hands during the process of kneading anyways. And have prepared a bowl, a big bowl for it to rise in, and you grease the bowl with olive oil. Leave a little pool of olive oil in the bottom of the bowl, and because you're going to roll the dough around in the olive oil before you cover it to rise. So now we'll just be kneading the dough for about 6 to 8 minutes. However, you're not going to have to watch me knead the dough for 6 to 8 minutes. I just wanted to show you what's going on. Okay, we're just finishing up kneading, and I've been kneading it for about 8 minutes, and I have a nice round ball with a nice smooth surface. Doesn't even stick to the countertop. And now I'm going to just place it in the bowl where there's been olive oil was put in the bowl. I have to take some of this olive oil. I have to make sure that I've smeared the whole bowl with olive oil. Right. And then put the round side down first. Smush it around. Flip it over. Smush it around some more so it's all covered in olive oil. Then you get a wet towel, warm wet towel. Okay. Bring it out so that it's damp. And cover the bowl and put it in a warm spot to rise for 2 hours. And we'll see you back here in 2 hours. I'm putting mine in an oven that's off. I have a gas oven. There's always a little tiny flame. That's it for now. 2 hours later. Bye. Okay, so here we are back at Casa Dash, and we're about to punch down the dough. See, it's risen to about double the size. That's what you want. If it's plain white dough, then it gets much bigger, but this is what you want. Punch it down. So we have 2 loaves here, so I'm going to cut this in half. Kind of sometimes hard to cut it, but okay. Now we have 2 halves. And what I'm going to do is cut one of these halves into thirds, because I'm going to braid it. I'm going to show you what I do for making it the original way, because the original loaf is a braided free-form loaf. And I've been fooling with it since then, and I put it into containers. So now you're supposed to let it rest, but I'm not going to bother with the resting part. And I have 2 bread pans. Okay. So at this point, what I do now is I take all the shortcuts. I don't let it rest for 10 minutes. I usually just stick it in the bread pan. I don't do anything to this bread pan. I don't oil it or anything. And I just kind of punch it down so that it's all even in the bread pan. And the other one, I'll show you how to make the braids. So we just roll it in our hands like this. Okay? Roll it in your hands. And you kind of stretch it out and roll it and stretch it out and roll it. So you have 3 strands. Won't take long. About equal strands, right? Lay them out next to each other like that. There. About an inch apart, and then you just braid them. Okay. There. Just braid them like that, right to the end. Flip it around, Braid the other side. And braiding it backwards now because you flipped it around. And you tuck the ends in. Now at this point you can just lay it on a cookie sheet just like that and bake it like that, and that'll give you a free-form loaf. But I've been putting that just like that into the bread pan. So now you let it rise for another hour, then it goes in the oven for 30 minutes at 375, and it comes out beautifully. I'll show you one.
Okay.